Hey everyone, we're back at Rebels Compass and continuing on with the conversation that I started with Ben last week about pulling layers away and discovering who it is that we are underneath, and discovering that purpose and how we want to show up every single day, and the value of who we are. And as mentioned last week, I brought my good friend Marlene on to join us today, and she's going to share with us her personal journey on pulling away those layers and pulling away the indoctrination and the expectation and duty of family, and where that has brought her today, and planetary alignments, and how powerful that is for her on a personal level, and what she's discovered with that. So, hi Marlene.
Hi, Karen.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous.
Thank you, Rebel Compass, for having me.
Yeah. So, for you, how did this journey begin?
Well, like many stories we heard before, an important event happened in my life, and that triggered a what I call the start of an introspective journey.
Mm-hmm.
That event, uh, you know, uh, obviously was uh, dramatic, and questions. You start questioning yourself about life, about everything, and that was about 16 years ago, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've been trying to um, find who I am, basically, and what I'm here to do, right? So,
yeah. So how did that journey start? When you started to, when this event happened, and you started to ask yourself questions about who you are, and have that conscious awareness
mhm.
that things needed to be different. How did you actually start that journey?
Well, basically, a family member passed away. So obviously, that in itself, um, you have a lot of emotional reaction
Mm-hmm.
to that. And I was having pretty extreme emotional reaction, and I was always known to be a person who is, you know, has her emotions under control. And then I was having these fluctuations, and I'm like, there's got to be a way to address this. I didn't want to, have medications to suppress that or to heal that. And basically, I started off going to see um, uh, a, s- um, a therapist
Mm-hmm.
and start talking about that. And that exercise just sort of started to the process, peeling the layers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if you've been in a therapist session,
Yep, I
that
have. Yep.
therapist will ask you questions, and you answer, and then but that answer ask another questions, and so on and so forth.
Well, sometimes that answer that you give is just a surface answer that you know they expect to hear, and then you go away afterwards and go, yeah, that wasn't quite it. And you start pulling the layers away and
That's right.
end up with more questions,
That's right.
usually.
That's right. Um, so that started the process for me, and um, and at the time I was in Toronto, living and working in Toronto, and fast forward when I moved back to Ottawa in summer 2008, actually August 2008, um, I picked up my quest,
Mm-hmm.
because when I moved back, obviously I had more questions about myself, and um, I started to understand that we're more than just a body.
Yeah.
We are, and when you start uncovering, um, you know, energy fields, and it opens up a what I call an not an industry, like an infinite
Mm-hmm.
area of discovery that you can start off and end up wherever you want to be.
Yeah, I remember those feelings for myself, and for me, I wanted to be a thumb drive that I could plug myself in and just download everything and know it now, because there was so much to learn and books to go and courses to go where you just pulling those layers away and discovering you.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time before moving back to Ottawa, with this journey I was going through and emotional, I also started to take care of myself more as well, on a nutritional level. And I got introduced to, not dieting, but more what you put in your body.
Eating.
Yeah, what consciously, exactly. What you put in your body, it's important. And I got introduced to detoxification, that we should be doing it on an annual basis. So that also opened a door to a lot of opportunities and to dive in and just discover yourself even more, right?
Yeah, which is exciting. So you mentioned earlier when we were talking off camera that you went to see a hypnotherapist at first.
That was a little bit later here in Ottawa. Before that, when I moved back to Ottawa, I started to see a naturopathic doctor. So, as most of us know, is a naturopathic doctor will try to treat or heal or address the health issues on a more natural way. And I had a wonderful naturopathic doctor who now has retired since, and she recommended me, while she was treating me, to this lady who is trained in the journey.
Okay, Brandon Bays.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And when I booked an appointment with that lady, we uncovered I had a lot of anger issues, a lot of suppressed anger issues, emotional trauma that was programmed since childhood, and I've never addressed it. And basically, when this event, family member that passed away, well, it was like a Pandora box.
Yeah.
Everything opened up and everything got out, and I didn't know at the time, but that was basically it. All the suppressed emotions, suppressed issues, who had not been dealt or met emotionally. I had to do it now. I had to deal with that. So that lady from the journey helped me tremendously to uncover and forgive myself. So I had a lot of forgiveness to do. And after that session with that lady, I had a tremendous feeling of relief, like seriously relief, even at the physical level.
Yeah.
And one of the symptoms I had at the time, I remember I had a lot of skin rashes.
Okay.
And they all disappeared.
And that was mostly, excuse me, because you then started to process the anger and allow that suppressed anger to come out and to understand where it came from.
Exactly.
So this journey work that Marlene talks about, the Brandon Bays, Ben posted the link so you can actually go and take a look at that if you're looking for something to initiate, or you've got something that you're experiencing right now. And many years ago, I actually did the training for the journey, and I still use that process for myself right now. And as I mentioned last week on the video that Ben and I did, when it came to going on the motorbike,
yes,
was figuring out, I knew I was afraid. I knew I didn't, and fear was coming up. I just didn't know why. And part of the journey work is asking yourself questions. So you'll start off with, so for me, the first thing that came up with a motorbike was it's dangerous. Well, okay, it can be, but that wasn't the reason why I was afraid. And as you keep asking yourself questions, you'll get a one-word answer or a short sentence. And it's about being honest with yourself and allowing that process to come up till you get to the core of why all that happened. Now, for me, the issue was trust. And trust wasn't just about trusting somebody else to be responsible for me on a motorbike. It was, trust is massive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's me trusting me to make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It's me trusting life's process. It's everything. So when you did this journey work
Mm-hmm.
with the lady that you went to that was trained
Mm-hmm.
in the journey process,
Mm-hmm.
that brought up all these anger issues for you that you were then able to process.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did that take? Was that a long process? Was it a short process? So the session was an hour?
No, the session was probably almost 3 hours.
Okay.
So it was like a whole morning with that
Mm-hmm.
lady. And, we were talking and getting ready. And then we did the session, which lasted close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember driving back home in the afternoon, and I felt a sense of relief and forgiveness towards myself.
Mm-hmm.
That it's okay to have these feelings.
Absolutely.
It's okay to you own that. You're in your right to have all sorts of emotions and to deal with them. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And learn to forgive yourself. Since then, I think it was the a twist, not a twist,
Tweak.
a turning point. That's
Yeah.
the word I was looking for. A turning point that whatever happens to me, I can forgive myself now.
Mm-hmm. And that's powerful to be able to forgive yourself.
And I'm not guilty about it.
Yeah. So one of the things that Brandon Bays will also do in some of the techniques that she has is allow you to connect to the younger you. So as we talked about previously, when we are growing up, we have all these conditions placed on us. Our parents raise us how they were raised, and they raise us with their fears and with their limited beliefs, and they do the best job that they can do. There's no blame, and that's the only thing that they're doing, the best job that they know how with the tools that they have available to them at the time, and they're still working through all their emotions that they've never ever dealt with. So their fears and their limitations are then placed on us. And when you hit those points, when you go to someone like Brandon Bays, or you do excuse me, that kind of work, she can take you back to a point when that memory of that biggest trigger is there, and do a journey visualization where you take your younger self with you, and you at this age now are there with all the wisdom that you have acquired in your life to the point that you're at now, and the younger you can then forgive themselves for not being what they think that they should have been at that time, because they didn't have the wisdom that you have now. They don't have the tools that you have now. So by being able to go back and journey, you can forgive the younger you for not having those tools, because we always go back in hindsight. I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd have behaved this way. I wish that hadn't have happened. Well, retrospect or that hindsight, you always go back with a wisdom that you didn't have at the time that that event happened. So by doing this journey work, you take yourself back to that age where you can actually release that trauma and release that anger or frustration or pain that's showing up physically in your life right now, and integrate then the younger you into the older you. And it's a whole visualization that's very, very beautiful. And I invite you to go and look at the website on Brandon Bays and watch some of the videos that she has posted up there as a tool that may work for you, either currently or in the future. Or you may know somebody that would be open to taking this journey with a licensed practitioner of the journey work, and seeing the power, even from Marlene, on how that brings you to a point to be able to forgive yourself. And forgiving yourself is immense, because you can forgive someone all day long and twice on Sunday for something that they did to you, and say, you know what, I forgive you, but still beat yourself up and drink that poison every single day and not forgive yourself for not knowing better when you didn't have the tools available to you at that time. So this is really powerful work.
Yes.
So it really had a fantastic...
Oh, it had a turning point in my life because my attitude towards me changed radically. And I've noticed the physical benefit as well. Like I said, my skin started, I had issue with my hair, I had, I was losing my hair because it was inflamed, the skin completely healed and turn around, right? My digestion started to be better. Like the whole bunch of stuff. It's like I had unlock the blockages or unblock energy blockages inside of me that I was not aware. But by doing this exercise, this journey, it sort of like opened up the gate, the healing gate, or whatever you may want to call it, right? And after this session, obviously, when you feel this good, or you notice a big change in yourself, well, you want to do you
want to do more.
You want to do more, which leads to other tools that I was trying to get to know that would benefit me. Obviously, that would help to get to know myself more better and to heal better. Right.
So where did you go after you did the Brandon Bay's journey work? Do you remember?
Yes, after that's where I went to see a hypnotherapist. Because keep in mind that since then I've been doing a lot of research and readings about energy work and programming and the subconscious, how the subconscious basically control your life. Even though the conscious is maybe just 5-10% of your awake, like when you're alive, your subconscious controls 95% of your entire life.
So all those programs that we're programmed to believe when we're children, through school, through our parents, through religion, through our friends, through social media, particularly now, all of those have an effect on your subconscious. They're running programs. And as I mentioned to Ben last week, mine with my parents was always, well, what are the neighbors going to think? What are the neighbors going to think? What's going to happen if you do this? And, oh, Karen, do you really want to do that? So you end up putting, as I mentioned, lampshades on top of yourself, and you become this dimmer and dimmer and dimmer light until eventually you sat in the shadows, not really living the life that you want to live because you're afraid of what people think.
Exactly.
So pulling those layers off, the lampshades, the layer of the onion, one by one, you start to ask yourself questions. Well, who am I really?
That's right. Exactly.
What do I believe? I don't believe what the teachers told me. I don't believe what my parents told me. Okay, it has value for where they were at in their life, and I'm going to take that wisdom, but that's not me. So hypnosis did that for you on the next level.
Exactly. I went to see two different ladies to get that, and this was in a span of probably, I would say, 3 years. Because sometimes the hypnotherapist session can be costly. It's not, like at a few 100,000. Sorry,
100,000.
A few $100.
Yeah,
a few hundred. So, and that also helped me a lot with my programming. Right. I became more aware of my thoughts.
Yes.
Right. So when you became more aware, then you stop yourself when you think about something, or when you say something. Oh my God, look at me!
Is that really me? Is that really what I
exactly?
believe?
But that's good, because when you bring consciousness to your thought, that's when your programming ends. Of that particular thought, right? You become conscious.
So you have a choice then whether you continue to believe it or you don't.
Exactly.
But then you can't unknow what you know. So when you know that you've got this program running, and you choose to still step in that program, it's then a conscious choice to step in that program or change, and then you are living an authentic life, even if you never change anything, because you're consciously not changing anything. Does that make sense? So this journey of self-discovery is massive. It's massive. It really is.
It is. It is, because as you, in my readings, and I bought many books on the subject since then, you realize that you're not just this flesh body.
No.
We're pure energy. And as you start doing your research and reading more, it can be kind of a curse, because you realize you don't know anything. The more you increase your knowledge, the more you're like, oh my God, I'm dumb. Like, I don't know anything. Like, this society is just based on lies, basically. Like what we've been taught since kindergarten and through primary school and high school and university. It's just, they want us to, they trained us to be to operate in this little box, and please don't go outside that box, otherwise, A, B, C, and D will happen, right?
So you live your life in fear of what if.
Yes.
What will the neighbors think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. What your parents will think, what your family will think.
Yeah.
What your employer will think too.
Yeah. So when you open that lid and step outside of the box, or you start to push the walls and expand the box, so you may still be inside it, but you're actually expanding the walls until you finally push the walls away.
Yes.
That's where all the self-discovery is. And
that's right. And please don't, I'm still discovering. I'm still peeling a lot of layers.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it could be a generational exercise, or maybe a multi lifetime exercise.
Yeah,
right.
And I believe that. I believe it's a multi. Ben and I talked last week about these time ruts. That we are living all of our lives now. So we have these time ruts that when we feel that push or that pull from our heart, it's that time that's come up that goes, okay, step into this now. It's your time. You can do this, and pushes you in a direction. But when you choose to go past it, it takes a while before it comes back again. But you always have that opportunity to step into the next level of you. And I was driving down the road last week, and I'm trying to think of an analogy that kind of gave me a picture of that. And all I could think of was this farmer's field, right? And the farmer plows the outside perimeter of his field every season. And every season he plants potatoes. And as he's driving around this field on the perimeter, he's going, I'd really love to plant cabbages. I'd really love to plant cabbages. And as he's ploughing his field, all of a sudden he feels the push. So he makes another rut. And he's going around this field. Now he's planting potatoes and cabbages. And he does that for several years. And then, I'd really love to plant carrots. And then all of a sudden he's pushed over, and now he's planting potatoes, cabbages. And that's the only way I could picture this, was with those time ruts, and how you make that move into the next level of you. The next expansion of you.
Yeah.
The next version of you, and it's every single day. How do we want to show up? How do you want to show up for you? And so I actually have a couple of friends that do hypnosis, and I'm hoping in the future to be able to bring them on to share with you what hypnosis is and what hypnosis is not. So people often have this fear of hypnosis because they're afraid that they're going to go away and start clucking like a chicken and barking like a dog. And that is not hypnosis. Hypnosis is a tool, when it's done in this therapeutic way, for self-discovery, because the brain does not know the difference between fiction and reality.
Correct.
So within this Brandon Bay's journey, that if we just go back to that for a moment, she will have you sat on a bench with this sacred fire and this massive screen that you visualize in your mind's eye, and you bring up those events and they play to you like a movie so that you can actually see it from a different perspective. And by doing that, it changes your whole perspective.
Correct.
So hypnosis does the same thing. It gives you this opportunity to be able to change your perspective and to change those programs, because the neural pathways that we have in our brain, at one point they thought that when your brain develops, that's it. Nothing ever changes. But we are constantly creating new neural pathways, and the more you shift in a direction, the stronger that neural pathway becomes, and then it creates another neural pathway as we continue to develop and grow. So hypnosis is a powerful, powerful tool, either for breaking through those emotional blocks or doing past life regression, if that's something that you believe in.
Yep. I did that as well. Past life regression with a good friend of ours, mutual good friend of ours, and that helped understanding sometimes patterns for me, in terms of why am I in this situation still, or why, whatever the issue is with yourself. And past life regression can be a tool that you can use and understand those patterns, right? Because, and that's another point, and I'm not sure how much I will we'll talk about it, but emotions, behavioral patterns are transmitted from your parents.
Absolutely.
And it goes from generation to generation to generations, and we inherit from our mother's side maybe thousands of years of emotional issues, and on your father's side the same thing. And then you're this melting pot of emotional issues, and sometimes when you become an adult, you have all these reactions and you don't understand. Most people don't understand why. But by doing this introspective exercise and journey, you uncover these questions or issues, right? So that's another aspect that I'm still currently doing, that is addressing some what we call karma, generational karma, and healing those things, letting those issues come up, address, and release.
And the part of the trick of letting them come up is staying neutral while you observe them.
Yes, or it could be a trigger.
Yes.
A trigger, a situational trigger, or someone, it could come through someone that triggers a reaction, and you're like, why am I reacting this way? Well,
yeah, that's the subject that Ben and I talked about last week. When you get angry, it's not the other person that made you angry.
No.
They just triggered the anger that was already inside of you.
That's right.
And a belief system that you have already inside of you. And they're the one that comes up and goes, okay, I'm just going to push that button, thank you very much. And you explode and blame someone else for making you angry.
That's right.
Well, in blame, there's no personal responsibility. So you have to take personal responsibility for how you feel and how you show up. And the more you work with these triggers, the more when situations come up like that, you find you don't react anymore. You will respond to something. So if someone's being disrespectful, when it's not a personal trigger for you, you then respond to that person being disrespectful and communicate with them in a very different way than blowing your top and yelling at them for being disrespectful, because that's an emotional issue. I know for me, disrespect, it still is a trigger for me, but I don't blow up anymore the same as I used to in the past. Disrespect is a huge thing for me because I don't think there's any need to be disrespectful. So that used to be a massive button pusher for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, now I respond more to that if it shows up in my life than I did in the past. And I find now it doesn't show up quite the same, and maybe it doesn't because now I'm more responding to that situation rather than reacting to that situation.
That's right. And you've mentioned that, I think, in the video last week, that the way we react, if somebody else does something, or we see something that we have a reaction to, that person is just a mirror of ourselves, right? It's telling us you need something to address. There's something within you that is obviously triggering emotionally, and you need to work on that. And over time, the beauty of it is like you have less and less of a charge when you have a same situation arising, right? And it's not something that happens overnight. I've been working on my issues for the last 16 years.
And me longer, yeah.
And but I will have a less of a charge when something comes up to me. And I will be able to identify exactly why that I'm having this reaction. Because of all the work I've been doing since then.
Yeah, and we are emotional beings.
We are.
Don't ever beat yourself up for experiencing an emotion. If you get angry or upset or frustrated, these are all emotions that we should experience when things come up.
That's right.
The difference is whether you experience it, understand it, and move through it, or whether you hold on to it, stick it in the filing cabinet, and still reacting to the same situation 20, 30, 40 years down the line. It's being able to experience it, go, okay, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, work out why, and move through it. Like I say, instead of building these huge, great big filing cabinets that we pull the drawer out and react to 25 years of that trigger.
That's right.
Rather than that trigger on that day, and then it's done. There is no more. It's just done on that day, and you continue through your day.
And forgive yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Forgive yourself for reacting, and then you let it go.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember if I mentioned last week, there was a situation that happened in my life a number of years ago, that 2 weeks after this event, I was still angry. And I wasn't just angry. I could have pile drive this person through every wall in existence. I was so angry, and I'm not generally a very angry person, so when I recognized that I was still angry, it's like, oh my God, why am I still angry? And for me, how I shift energy for myself personally, my kids will back me up on this, I move furniture. I move furniture around, because when I'm moving furniture, I am changing the energy. I change the energy in my room. And while I'm doing that, I'm processing my thoughts. And as I was processing my thoughts, I was able to come to what the realization was of why I was so angry. And once I came to that realization, it's like, oh, okay, that comes back to me. It comes back to my experience and an experience with my mum. And as soon as I recognized that I was angry, not because of the situation that had shown up in my life, but because of something in me that was so suppressed and buried inside of me, that I was then able to address it. And when I addressed it within myself, my relationship with my mum changed. And I think I was probably in my 40s, sometime like that, 45 maybe, I forget now. And for the first time in my life, I'd actually heard my mum tell me she loved me.
Beautiful.
But it was because I healed it in me. She did nothing. She never did it. She was 3,500 miles away. She never did anything.
Yeah.
I shifted it in me. And when I shifted that blocked emotion that was inside of me, I was able to release all of it and open up a different pathway between me and my mum on an energetic level. There was no words spoken between us. There was nothing.
Nope. Because we are energy.
I called them every week like I did, and my mum said, I love you, bye. And I put the phone down and went, my mum just told me she loved me. Oh my God. And it was just so powerful.
Yeah.
But I changed it in me. And we are all capable of doing that.
Yes, we all are, because, again, emotions, we're all energy. So it's blocked, it's suppressed energy if you don't deal with that. And then what happened when you have suppressed energy inside of you? It has to come out.
Shows up physical.
So exactly, it shows up in, ailments and chronic issues with your body if you don't address that.
I've just gone through that myself. So for those people that know me personally, I went through some heart issues, and immediately I was diagnosed with this heart issue. I started doing some energy work on myself and doing some visualizations because I was aware that it started off as an emotion, even though it showed up physical, even though something could have triggered that, it started off as emotion. And when I did these visualizations and a meditation that at some point I will record with Ben, it's a Mary Magdalene meditation. What I was bringing up was expectation and duty, and that expectation and duty was something that had always been here in me, in my physical. As I mentioned, I'm a person that likes to be in service. So I'd taken on expectation and duty and responsibility into my own physical being that wasn't necessary for me to take on. And I was having heart palpitations. And these heart palpitations, when you go and look at Louise Hay, that does the comparison between an emotion or an experience that you're having in the physical and what that may mean on an emotional level, when I started looking up the energetic answers to what I was feeling in palpitations and heart arrhythmia, was that a situation in my life had become so intolerable my heart couldn't stand it. And I was actually experiencing that at the time in my life, and I hadn't necessarily put all the things into place or acknowledged all of the things that were going on in my life, but the situation for me was becoming intolerable. And the only way my body could actually get me to sit down and look at what was going on in my life and say, you really need to change this, because if you don't, this is going to get worse and worse and worse, and eventually you're going to transition. So take a grip, look at your life, and address what's going on. And I did, and even though it took for me to have an ablation surgery, and how I looked at that was, when I had this ablation surgery, it was burning out old contracts that were in my heart that I'd brought forward. And touch wood, so far, all is good. But what that has meant for me is I have to carve time out for self-care, which I wasn't. Everything was about everybody else, taking care of my children, taking care of my family, taking care of my grandchildren, taking care of everything else. And eventually, somewhere down the line, was Karen. But that also came from old programming.
Yes.
Right?
Of course.
The old programming from my parents were raised during the wartime.
And especially us women, we carry a lot of issues that we're not supposed to be taking care of ourselves.
No,
we have to take care for everybody. And you know what? Scientifically, it's proven in our hormonal system that during our childbearing years, that's what we do. We are programmed to do that, to take care of everybody except ourselves.
Yeah.
But these things change when you go through menopause and perimenopausal, right? Whereby the woman's body, it's wonderful. I've been reading a book on from a doctor in the States. Sorry, I'm digressing here a little bit.
Carry on, it's great.
But her name is Christiane Northrup.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's written many books, and I got one of her book is called The Wisdom of Menopause. It's not about just menopause, it's about what goes on with the body of a woman, right? And all the hormonal issues that we have, disease, so on and so forth. If you can pick up that book, it's a wonderful book. Anyway, she was saying that we are programmed, even physically, through our hormonal system, to take care of everybody else except ourselves.
Yeah.
And then this changes when we go through menopause, because we obviously, we are going through hormonal changes, and basically our body gets reprogrammed through the brain. And, once you're past that, then we are more, we're taking care more of ourselves after that, right?
So all you young women out there, don't wait till you're in your 40s and 50s or whatever when menopause takes place. Now,
Yes.
now is the time when you carve out time for self-care,
Mm-hmm.
because this is one of the things that is very much in my life right now. Because as I mentioned, my dad passed away at the end of January, and he struggled at the end of his life. He was in a lot of pain and he was suffering, and I couldn't understand why. So I started to look at his journey as a lesson back for me. And one of the things that came back through that experiencing of watching my dad transition was, you can always make more money, but you can't create more time.
Mm.
So this became an awareness within me, is what do I really want to do with my time? Well, this is something that I want to do with my time. And this is self-care for me too, because I get to share with some amazing people that have had their own journey. Every single one of us has a story to tell. Every single one of us
Mm-hmm.
has an experience that we can share that can up-level someone else.
Mm.
And so now for me, taking time out for me and self-care has become very, very important. And my kids are like, Mum, you need to take more care of yourself. Mum, you need to take more care of yourself. Finally listening. Took a while, but I got there in the end. So after you did the hypnosis, was there a progression after the hypnosis?
Well, yes, there is. There's always is, but from my own experience, obviously I can only talk about what I'm going through. I mean, every time I go through some kind of a tool that I use on myself, I'm going to say that, you know, there's always like a period of time, so your body adjusts, and you know, you go through. So there was a few years after the hypnosis was completed, then I was referred to this practitioner in the States, John Newton, who specialized in dealing with generational karma.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was talking earlier about having your emotions and karma, if you know, being downloaded from your mother's side and your father's side, that could trigger issues, health issues. I believe the website is called Health Beyond. Hang on, I'm trying to remember. Health Beyond something.com. You cut that part, okay?
Healthbeyondsomething.com.
John Newton is his name?
Correct.
It's Health Beyond Belief.
Health Beyond Belief. You see,
Perfect.
that's the word I was like, I couldn't remember. And this is another angle, that this is a wonderful practitioner from the States. He came to Ottawa a couple times, and I attended his sessions. Very easy. Usually it's a monthly, you subscribe to a session for a month, and usually it comprises every Monday night for an hour and a half. And you listen. They send you all this information. You can, you know, dial in and all that. You can reply. But you listen. And you listen. And for the first half hour, he's going to talk a little bit about, depending on the subject of that day. And then he takes calls after that. So if you are chosen, you can, you know, call in, and then you explain your situation, and then he, you know, try to address it. But by just listening to every people across the world, because you have people across the world calling in, sometimes you will resonate with the issues they're talking about.
Absolutely.
And just by resonating and connecting, you address it
within yourself.
And then it comes up, and you release it. And on many, I cannot tell you, even though I've never called him and then talked to him directly, a lot of calls came and took me and hit me, and I was able to, and I was crying. I was just like, oh my God, bawling myself. But it's, again, emotions coming up to the surface to be dealt with, even though if you don't understand what it is. Like, why am I crying? It doesn't matter. You don't need to know, because there's a higher self. Your higher self knows and will deal with it. You don't need to know. This is our ego who wants to know everything. Oh, how do I get there all the time?
Details,
You don't need to know. And it's so easy to do sessions with John. It's so easy. You can just be passive about it, and 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 you're still healing yourself on a different angle.
Yeah. Well, we're all energetic beings
We are.
in
We
this
are.
fabulous meat suit that was provided for us, but we're all energetic beings. And if you want to know where you are at right now with your frequency and with your energy, look at the people closest to you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got people in your life that are supportive and non-judgmental and able to have a conversation with and uplift and up level and just be a sounding board back to whatever it is that you're experiencing. Or if you've got people in your life that all they ever do is complain and bring you down. So any idea that you've ever had is, well, why would you do that? And that doesn't work for me. And why are you with that person? I wouldn't stay with that person. And so you can very, very quickly, when you look at the people in your direct life, even just the 5 closest people around you, I'm not talking about family necessarily, but the people you spend the most time with, look at them and you will get a direct idea of the frequency that you are today. Because like attracts like. You will attract in where you resonate. The heart song that you sing out every single day and the process that goes around in your brain on whether you beat yourself up all of the time. And I know we can all do that. I do it on a daily basis and pull it back. You know, so we all do that. But look at the people around you and it will give you a clear identity of where your frequency is at today. So you mentioned when you and I spoke another time, and I mentioned on the video last week, that you have used planetary alignment as a powerful tool for you personally. So how has that worked for you?
By all means, I'm not an astrologer, so please.
No, this is just your personal journey.
But for me, and it's interesting because we can be talking about that for hours, but I don't think we have the time today.
Well, we can get you back.
But I'm a Capricorn. You're a Capricorn.
Me too. I'm Ben.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my God!
Yep.
3 Capricorns here today. Awesome. And again, we all we're energy. The planets are energy. Celestial bodies are energy. The universe is energy. It all impact us at the cellular level. Regardless, you believe it or not. And I have many stories for the skeptics. If we have time, we can get into that. But anyhow, for the Capricorns, I mean, Capricorns have been going through a lot of changes. We're going to go through many changes. Planet alignments they have impact on us, whether you like it. Just look at the moon, right? When we have a full moon, new moon, and then if super moon, and if it's combined with an eclipse, oh my God, watch out. But it does impact the energy on the planet. Right now, understanding the planets affecting me, it added a different, another layer of understanding how things works for me, and also how to put things in perspective, right? So if for you out there, the planet closest to the Earth usually will have an impact on us, right? So you have Mercury, Venus, and Mars. The bigger planet as well, because they're big, like Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus they do have their influence, but not as maybe much.
Yeah.
So, but right now, I'm going to briefly touch on this because right now we have Pluto, who has been in Capricorn. Well, it entered in Capricorn November 26, 2008, and it's going to be in Capricorn until 2023. So we still have another 4 years and a half of Pluto in a Capricorn. And Pluto is usually, it takes 84 years to go through all the zodiac signs. So it's only going to go once in our lifetime, so which is good because Pluto is it's the planet. I'm just going to read some notes here I have. It's the planet of transformation, um, deep at the core level. Although it was recently declassified as a dwarf or classified as a dwarf planet, it still has it's quite powerful,
planet.
mighty, towards us. And so when it goes through a sign, basically it's sort of destroying everything that no longer serves us. Um, and its purpose is to get rid of the stuff that you have in your closet in order for you to heal and to transform, which
It's happened to me.
we've all been going through, and I'm pretty sure the Capricorns out there can attest to that. In mythology, Pluto was ruled by the underworld. So the underworld is like, it can be dark aspect of yourself, scandals, showing the skeletons in our closets and stuff like that. So it's forcing us to address it, opened up and then address it. So Pluto is very transformative, right? And it's been right now changing a lot of Capricorns.
Personal lives, yeah.
Capricorn is the earth sign, as we know, and it rules a lot of the corporation, the structures, the banks, everything that is like stands for society and power, authority. And Pluto is going through that right now. It's been going through that for 10 years. We have almost another 4.5 years to go. So guess what's happening in this world, right?
Breaking down all the banks.
A lot of stuff is breaking down, and we hear on the news, right? You can't hide anything right now. Lies are coming up to the surface to be known. So we know that. But on a more personal level, I know I'm going through a changes. You are going through a lot of changes. Ben, you're probably going through a changes. I'm not sure, but
yeah, we're always going through changes.
So that is another. It's a very powerful planet going through. I mean, and we can, go.
I think Ben and I are at one of the first dates. Like my birthday is January 1st.
Yes.
Ben's is the end of December.
Yeah. Yes. So when a planet goes through a sign, okay. So Pluto is going through for 15 years on a sign, roughly. So right now it's Pluto is towards the end of Capricorn. So the last group, usually a sign has 3 groups: the first, the middle, and the last group. So it's going to force the last group of Capricorn, which is me, because I'm January the 18th, to go through. It's going to have its effect on me a lot. So I know I'm going through a lot changes internally. It could be also externally. So the next 4.5 years, I may be, going through a lot of changes, whether it's career-wise, house-wise, where I live, where
you work,
where I work, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be a very transformative area. You've been through a lot of changes lately, so maybe right now you're going to get a bit of a relief.
Yay!
Going
That's
forward.
Exciting, because the last 5 years of my life, maybe even longer has it been, certainly the last 5 years of my life have been everything breaking down, from moving house twice, passing of both my parents, me physical changes in surgery and how I look at that, a divorce. That's
well, talking about coming back
quite a lot.
Coming back to moving a lot. I've been moving like how many times? Probably 4 times in the last 7 years, but this is due to Uranus.
Okay.
The planet Uranus, who was in Aries from 2011 until last year. It started to get into Taurus in May, around May. And then it went back retrograde in November, back into Aries. And now March the 6th, 2 days ago, or the 8th, it went back into Taurus. So what it, which is good for us. But in Aries, it was our home sector.
Okay.
So, and Uranus rules the unexpected, the chaos, the surprises. It's the planet of like surprise, unexpected events, change now,
Mm-hmm.
So it was in our home sector, and I moved 4 times, just to so people know. You moved also.
I moved a few times
So
too.
a lot of Capricorns feels ungrounded lately because of that. That could be, we can blame Uranus, but now Uranus is settling into the sign of Taurus, which is the sign apparently of the true love, one of them. So for the next 7 years, so hopefully, we're gonna, it should be a little bit more grounding for us, for sure,
good.
going forward. So the other, I just want to quickly touch as well, the other huge planet that is in Capricorn is Saturn. Saturn obviously is our home. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so it's coming back in its own home sign. It entered Capricorn December 19 to 17, and it will stay until March 21st, 2020. It takes 28 years to go through all the signs. So what is a Capricorn? What is Saturn? Saturn is the planet of discipline. So it's the taskmaster. And Saturn is very stern. It's all about restriction, harsh reality checks.
Mm-hmm.
Both Saturn and Capricorn rules men, fathers, authority, banks, economy, government, corporation, and big industries. So we'll see that these areas will come under scrutiny. Funny, that's what's happening, what we're hearing right now,
Mm-hmm.
eh?
Yeah.
So Saturn acts like a magnifying glass and look and surveys for the flaws in these areas.
Okay, yeah.
So, but it does the same thing for us at the personal level, right?
Yeah.
And it can sort of like tear down whatever no longer serves us, right?
And that can be scary when that gets torn down.
That's right.
Particularly if it's done very, very quickly and goes, surprise.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, a lot of Capricorn will go through a lot of changes. It's going to be huge years, like last year and this year and 2020. We're going to go through that because we have Pluto, and then we have Saturn, who is like, it's coming here, and it's like, now you got to do,
So that's like those time ruts that we were talking about. With these planets coming into this alignment and that pull or that push from your heart space that I really need to do this, I want to do this, but the fear stops you or the what if stop you.
Yeah.
These planets are coming into alignment to shove you into the next.
That's right. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And, it can, and sometimes the universe will maybe, if you're not following your heart or what you pull, well, the universe may take a 2x4 and hit you in the head with whatever event.
Yeah, well, I've had a few of those.
Well,
now I say only 2x2s, please. The 2x4s hurt.
And it's like I'm a bit, on pins and needles because I'm coming, and that's going to be coming to me. It's going to start this year and probably most of 2020 next year. You guys have gone through it. Now it's like I'm about
Lucky
to go.
us, Ben.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is later this year, in December 2019, we have Jupiter coming into Capricorn. So there's going to be a lot of Capricorn energy for the next 1.5 to 2 years. And Jupiter takes 12 years to do all the, so it comes a little bit more often.
Rapidly, yeah.
And so is Saturn. Usually we experience that twice or 3 times in our lifetime. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, improvement, opportunities, right? It's time when it comes, it's time to expand our horizons. It could be material matters as well and beyond. That could be also important for us in the future, right? It's also the planet of good luck and good fortune. So opportunities should come our way when we have Jupiter. It's like if you have a dream, have a wish, when you have Jupiter in your sign, well, it's kind of giving you like, hey, it's a gift. Like the next 12 months, you have the energy that will support you, will bring you opportunities for you to maybe move on to something, have the ideal career coming up, or the ideal whatever opportunity for you to take, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. So it's transforming us, Capricorn, but at the end, we're going to have a nice planet giving us gifts.
Yeah,
like
that's
for
cool.
it to end. And not only that, but we're not getting into it, but we also have the eclipses in the next 18 months are going to be on the axis of Capricorn and Cancer. So a lot of stuff happening, and we can add also the North Node and the South Node being in Capricorn and Cancer. So a lot of the energy will be surrounding, those two signs in the next 18 months for sure.
So Capricorns out there, there's going to be lots of changes.
But that's good. That's good.
It is good. Change is good. We can get so stuck in our ways, and like I mentioned once before, you can become very comfortable with being miserable and not move, and always have that desire in your heart to move forward, but never actually act upon it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when these planets come into that alignment, give you that shove into the next version of you, the next timeline, the next time rut, if you like, whatever you want to call them, for you to be that up-leveled version of you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just going to introduce also another planet. Mercury right now is retrograde. It started as retrograde March the 6th.
Okay.
And it's going to be retrograde until March the 28th. So, and Mercury rules transportation, communications, and electronics. So at work, I always say to people, and I work for the government, so very
controlled,
3D, if we can say that. When computers go berserk, your car goes berserk, or anything, buses and all that, notice when those things happen. And most often they happen during a Mercury retrograde. And to the point that now even my boss at work will say, okay, Marlene, is that Mercury retrograde or what? Like my computer is like, and I'm going to send a little, email to my people inside. Say, okay, guys, watch out, Mercury's coming up. So, make sure.
Back up all your information just in case your computer fretzes on you and you don't have backup.
That's right. So, yes. It's quite interesting to see the correlation of the energy of the moving, the celestial planets and our life here on
so
the
this
planet.
So for you, the astrology part gives you an insight into energy flow and things that come up for you, and how you're going to navigate that energetic journey, if you like.
That's right. So, like for instance, and I tell people, I mean, this is what it is. When I used to live in Toronto, I would take the GO train, which is the commuting in the GTA. When we had a Mercury retrograde, very often every second or third day, the train would be late, or we would have a breakdown. But instead of getting up, worked up or mad or angry, it puts things in perspective, and you understand that. Go to work, your computers, you have issues. Oh, well, okay, it's just Mercury retrograde.
It'll work again tomorrow.
That's right. It will work again tomorrow. So, to me, it's a tool that makes me understand how the energy impacts our day-to-day life, whether it's at work, at home, with family, with family members. And
I'm sure that helps you not stress out about things that are not in your control.
Correct.
Right? Because,
absolutely,
again, that same scenario with public transportation, make someone late for work, whatever, ruins their whole day, and they're just mad about it, and they can't get themselves out of that funk. Whereas if you approach it with a different perspective and say, this is out of my control, there's nothing I could have done about this anyways, obviously this is just the universal energy that's going around right now.
Yeah.
Just accept it,
Correct.
get on with your day, move on. It's going to help you, I think, just
Exactly.
deal with stressful situations a little easier than it would if you were completely unaware of any of that.
Because when we harness this emotions, this anger, this what I call negativity, well, it's you create blockages inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuck. It gets stuck in your body, physical body.
Yeah.
And again, it's scientifically proven that it does block
Yes.
inside of you. And that creates what? Well, inflammations, and
Disease.
if you don't disease, and
Mm-hmm.
if it goes unaddressed for a period of time, then guess what?
It becomes more physical, and then
You start in this rut, and you start in this vicious circle, right? That people need to. That's why it's very important to do your work internally, and get to know yourself, basically. No, most people are operating on like a what I call
a very surface level.
yes, and on automatic,
unconscious, automatic,
exactly,
autopilot.
exactly. So,
And when you switch from autopilot into driving your own vehicle,
yeah,
you become more aware of everything that's coming at you, surrounding you.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Through you. Like we've mentioned before, life does not happen to you, it happens through you.
Uh-huh.
And when you take your life off autopilot and actually take control of your emotional health, your physical health, who you surround yourself with,
Mm-hmm.
that has a massive impact on your thought process. The ego, when the ego mind jumps in, the ego has its place. Everything has its place. But when the ego mind is in control, it will tear you down. I have spent years deprogramming an ego mind that tells me I'm not worthy, tells me I'm not good enough, tells me, well, you made a hash of that. Why did you even try? So it's reprogramming that about yourself. And Ben mentioned last week one of the things that I raised them with was the only failure is not to try at all. And now we have a new word that's fail forward. There is no such thing as failing. You've just found another way of not doing what you set out to do, because the universe is giving you a different path or a different version of being able to do that. And maybe it's just down to timing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what? There's days that it's hard work to be conscious of what we've been talking today. And there's days that I'm falling back like I hate everybody, and I just I just don't want to get up and beat up myself, and I feel this and I feel that. There are days, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't be hard on yourself and forgive yourself too. It's normal because we are human beings, right?
Yeah, having an emotional experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Energy and motion. Every single energy that we feel should be an energy.
Motion.
Yeah.
Motion is energy in motion.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a good book, E Squared.
Yeah.
That's I can't remember the author of that, but the book is E Squared, and it's all about emotional wellness and being able to navigate the emotions that we're experiencing, and it's a phenomenal book to read.
Mm-hmm.
So as Ben pulls that up for you, I highly recommend this book. It also has a workbook with it, so it gives you those questions to be able to ask yourself if you're pulling away layers. This is a great book to read, and there's lots and lots of tools. So I want to thank Marlene for being here today and sharing some of her journey. I'm going to hopefully bring her back to go more in depth either into what may be happening next month with the planetary alignment for Capricorns, and specifically in our lives because we're all Capricorns, and the ongoing journey that Marlene is on in her self-discovery. So I really want to thank you for being here and sharing your journey. Because you and I and Ben, we're now connecting with multiples of other people that are may looking for a resource that we've given to them today, and knowing that we're not alone. Every single one of us has an emotional experience. Every single one of us has days where we don't want to get out of bed. Every single one of us have experienced those days where you know what, I really don't want to do this anymore. And I know what I've experienced those days. And one by one, we can raise each other up, and one by one, we can share our story. And Rebels Compass is the platform for that. So if you have anything that you would like to share, if you want to come on and talk to us, send me a message, because it would be phenomenal to be able to share your stories and your experiences, so that we can up-level each other and be the change that we want to see in our own lives. So thanks very much, Marlene.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for, I'm grateful that I had this opportunity to share my journey, and if it can help one person, well,
great. And also thank you to Vocal House Studios and sharing this space for us to be able to do that. Thanks very much, and have an amazing day, everyone.